What's up, guys? Today we're going to be checking out 2025's best TV of the year, the Sony Bravia 8 Mark II. Alright, so I may be a little bit late on this review, but I wanted to get this in because lately I've been uploading a lot of my videos to YouTube in HDR, and I wanted to get something in where I can check my workflow or just check my work to see what it would look like on YouTube. I figured I would go with this TV here, which should give me a good idea of what it's going to look like, what most people would experience if they're watching these YouTube videos on their television sets. This so happens to be, I guess, Sony's best TV of the year. So that's why I wanted to get this in. And that's why I opted for the 55-inch, because anything else would be just too big for my office space. We have your setup guide. And then here we have your remote control. We got your batteries. We got your screws for the feet. And then we have your safety information and other documentation as well. Here we have some cover plates. And then lastly, we have your feet for the TV, if you're going to stand mount these. I'm going to be mounting it on my wall, so I'm not going to be using these. And of course, this is an OLED. Actually, it uses their new QD-OLED panel. I've been a fan of the mini LEDs for a few years now, so I'm going back right now to try out the OLEDs to see just how much more of an improvement these have been since, I think the last time I had an OLED, at least a Sony OLED, was back in like 2018. So this is going to be my first one in quite some time. And one of the best things that I really liked about having the Sony OLEDs is that they put the actuators for the speakers behind the TV. So you actually have speakers that are installed behind the screen. So if you're watching, or if you're watching anything, when people are talking, the sound will actually come from the screen, almost like you have a projector with an acoustically transparent screen where the speaker is behind the screen. This works very much the same way. So you'll hear the sound actually emanate from the television screen itself, which is really cool and something that the Bravia 5 or any of the mini LED TVs don't do. Because for the Bravia 5 or any of the mini LED sets, the sound usually comes from either the side frame of the TV or on the bottom of the TV. This actually comes from this screen itself. So when people are talking, you're gonna hear it sound like it's actually coming from their mouths. All right, so as far as connections, we do get two USB inputs. We do have the built-in mic switch on off. So if you do not want to use the OK Google settings, you can turn on the mic, the inbuilt microphone on and off. It does have the digital output, which is an optical output. It has the S center speaker input. So if you want to use this TV hooked up to one of their AVRs, you can actually output the center channel from the receiver into the TV, so you can use the TV actually as a center channel. So it'll help augment the center channel effect using the TV itself. Actually, there are 4 HDMI 2.1 inputs with support for EARC. Also, HDMI 4 does support 4K 120, as well as HDMI 3, ALLM, VRR. So if you are a video gamer, you're going to be wanting to use those two inputs. There is a LAN connection, a 3.5mm RS-232 input for some external control. And then if you have a terrestrial antenna, if you want to get over-the-air content, you can plug a antenna up into this spot right here. Also up at the top here, if you remove this cover, you can purchase Sony's optional camera. So if you want to do video calling, stuff like that, you would plug in the camera right up top and then it would just sit on top of the TV set. So that's kind of a cool feature. Kind of like back in the days from 2016 where they had actually built-in cameras, you can actually add this now. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, there are speakers back here, which I spoke about the actuators and the sound coming from the screen. You can see that they're located on the top corners. All right, so let me give you a tour of where I'm placing the television set. So this is just the office where it is being installed. Some of you guys might recognize the seats. These are the Valencia Naples seats. So that way, if I'm done editing or if I just want to waste a little bit of time, I can just sit down in my little lounge area here and just chill and relax. This is my equipment section. This is where I keep a lot of my stuff. So if I want to double check some monitoring, if I'm shooting anything, I will pick the Sony headphones. These are the MDR-1As. These are a few years old, but they still work really good. I have a spare Shure SM7B microphone if I have any guests in the house. I've got my B-Cam. This is my Sony A7C, which I've had for a few years since it came out. Got a bunch of different lenses here. I've got my DJI gimbal. I've got a little pocket here which I keep my mics, my DJI mics, some extra lavaliers, and then I have these little hooks here which I can store just some extra USB cables. And then of course if I need to use my teleprompter, then I will use my teleprompter. So this is my little equipment section. And then I do have my YouTube plaque for reaching 100,000 subscribers. So that's where I keep that, right up at the top there. This is why I wanted to get the TV, is for my editing. So this is the desk. This is where I do all the editing. I've got my monitor here, which is, I've got it mounted vertically so I can look at my scopes and all that. This is my editing monitor, which is getting a little bit long in the tooth, so I might be replacing this sometime soon. But this is a BenQ. It's a 32-inch. You can see that I'm editing this video right now. You can see me sitting on the box, which you probably already saw at the beginning of this video. And then for my desk setup here, I've got my MacBook Air. If I'm on the road or something like that, I need to edit somewhere else, or if I'm doing some multiple streams in a different room, I'll whip that out. I've got an extra 14 terabyte drive. These are some old school speakers. These are the M&K S85. These are what I'm using for my monitoring my audio. You can see how it still has the foam still intact, although this one is a little bit dried out. They still sound really good though. And then I've got my little SSD, which I use in my Atomos Ninja, extra microphone, extra SM7B, and then of course my studio monitors. If I have somebody here, guest, if I have a guest here, I will give this to them. This is also a pair of Sony headphones. These are the MDR 7506s. I think there's a newer version of these ones, but these are the OGs. These are really good, very neutral sounding headphones. I would like to get the new versions at some point in time. For my live streaming, or if I want to record something at the desk, this is one of the original cameras, Sony cameras that I've got. This is the Sony 5100, the Alpha 6100. It's only a 1080p camera, but this is perfectly fine for just live streams and all that stuff. And then hooked up to this, I have a 20mm Sigma lens, which gives me a nice wide field of view, especially since this is an APS-C lens. This gives you, this fits a lot of the room in it, and also keeps me nice and in focus, because the autofocus, even on this camera, works really well. All the audio comes out of this guy here. It's this is the Cambridge Audio Evo 150. I believe this puts out 150 watts per channel into the M&Ks. So this sounds great. And also under the desk, you can see that I have a REL 1201. It's either 1201 or 1210 subwoofer. I have one on each side. So I have that hooked up to the Cambridge also to give me some low-end frequency effects in the mix. So if I hear something, if I'm editing my live streams and I'm bumping the mic or something like that, it comes out really well in the subwoofers. And Sony has got this motto that they call from lens to living room, meaning since a lot of their shows and movies are shot on their Sony cameras, like this one, this is the A7C. We're shooting this video on the Sony FX3, which if you're into your movies, you would know that movies like The Creator were also shot on the FX3. So from lens to living room, i.e. the Sony Bravia 8. So if it's shot on the Sony camera, it should look great on their own TVs. So after I'm done doing my editing here, I wanted to transfer it over here so I could watch it on playback, so that way I know what the HDR is going to look like in most people's homes, because this isn't really a true representative of what I think the HDR would look like. That's one of the reasons why I do want to upgrade at some point in time to a better HDR capable monitor. But in the meantime, after I'm done editing the footage, it comes over here and I know if the highlights are good, the shadows are good, and it gives me a really good idea of what you guys are going to see when you guys are at your house. And as you can see, I am using the Sony Bravia Core app. And if you take the remote control and hit the little wrench on the upper top right-hand corner, this is going to bring up your quick bar settings. So from here, you can go into all of the settings on the TV set, and then you have your quick access settings here, which you can also edit. And from here, everything that I have a check on will show up on the quick settings bar. And if you want to add something, you would just add the check. And if you want to take something away, you would remove the check and then click close. And then you can see that that power savings option is now here. But let's just go ahead and take a quick look at some of the pertinent settings, such as the picture and sound really quick. So the first section here is going to be under picture. Right now you can see in the upper right hand corner, this is playing in HDR. Right now I do have the Sony Pictures Core calibrated mode on, so if you are watching the Sony Pictures Core app, this will automatically kick the TV into the preferred Pictures Core calibrated settings. If you don't want to use that because you think it's a little too processed looking or whatever, you can go ahead and just turn that off, and you can see that everything below it is now going to be ungrayed, so you can actually change some settings. So right now, if you want to change the brightness settings, we have the HDR brightness, contrast, gamma, HDR tone mapping, which we have brightness preferred, or you could switch to gradation preferred. So gradation preferred is going to give you better overall color transitions, better color gradation, and of course, brightness preferred is going to put an emphasis on the overall image brightness. So you personally may find one looks better than the other. Let's back on out of that. Here we have the black level adjustment, the black adjust, which will automatically enhance black colors by analyzing the luminance level of the picture in real time and automatically adjusting the dark levels. So right now this is off, this is on low, this is on medium, and then on high. Next option is the advanced contrast enhancer. We have this on off, this is on low, and then medium, and then on high. And then for peak luminance, right now we have this on high, maxed out, so we get the most HDR pop, and then medium, low, and then off. I think most people are probably going to use this on high just to get the most vibrancy out of their TVs. Now keep in mind, I'm not a professional calibrator. However, there are tons of videos on how to calibrate this TV already on YouTube since it's been out for a few months now. So we're just going to quickly go through these settings. Next section here is color. Again, if you have the proper calibration tools, you can adjust all of these color adjustments, such as all of your RGB gain. And then you can also adjust the color temperature as well if you have the appropriate gear. Also the same thing with a per color adjustment options as well. Under clarity, we have the sharpness setting. Right now it's set to 50, reality creation. This will automatically enhance the detail of the video by performing super resolution processing and noise reduction while analyzing the picture in real time. Some people like this, some people don't. I'm kind of on the fence about this if I'm watching something low level, like something on DVD, maybe something on streaming, and it doesn't look so hot, or it's just 1080p. Sometimes I will like to use reality creation, but if I'm watching 4K content, I typically leave this off. For this video, I'm going to keep it off. Here we've got noise reduction, digital noise reduction, smooth gradation. Again, if you're noticing any kind of posterization in the image, you can use this to kind of mitigate that. And then under motion flow, if you want to get smoother motion with whatever you're watching, you can adjust that here. There is the custom mode, which you can adjust the smoothness camera, and then clearness. Or if you want to have the TV do it itself, you can put this on auto. I am personally not the biggest fan of it, but season to taste. If you like it, you like it. If not, turn it off. And then we have the Cinemotion, which detects video of movies and other content and optimizes picture quality using IP interlace progressive conversions and frame interpolation. Under sound, we do have a few options for this. There is a surround mode, which we can keep, which is on auto right now. You can turn it on, or you can turn this off. You can adjust the surround effect. You can bring up a little bit more clarity in the voices or the dialogue. There is a 7-band equalizer, and then you can reset all those settings. And then post-processing, using Sony's acoustic technology, we have standard, Dolby audio processing, or DTS Virtual X, which will add a pseudo surround effect using either DTS or on Dolby. And then for acoustic calibration, this will automatically calibrate the TV speakers to your room. You'll have to select how you have this TV set up. Right now I've got it wall mounted, or if you have it on a tabletop stand, you can select that option. And that'll change the EQ of the TV to fit your specific installation. So right now we are going to go ahead and do the acoustic calibration. Keep the remote pointed at the TV, and then we're going to click on start. And then that's it. It was pretty quick, just a couple of seconds, and you're done.
Oh, these are just... The rest of you can come out. We're in a hurry.
Oh, you got the patterns. Now you gotta die.
The only ones dying tonight are you. I said the only ones dying tonight are your...
I'm sorry. What?
Your fans! I hate your fans!
No, thank mess with our fans?
We need to make it hurt.
You bad time, but you just crossed the line. You want to get wild? Okay, I'll show you.
And then of course this will support Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos with supported apps within the TV. This happens to be a Sony movie, so hopefully they don't strike me for copyright. Go ahead and click on resume playing, and then we're going to click on the quick settings bar, and then you can see here that we have the 3 different options for Dolby Vision. We have Dolby Vision Vivid, which gets eye-searingly bright, maybe the brightest I've seen on an OLED for me personally so far. We've got Dolby Vision Bright, and then we have Dolby Vision Dark. If you're sitting in a darkened environment, this will probably give you the best HDR, well, Dolby Vision for your room. And then for those apps that only support HDR, it'll play back in HDR10. And as you can see here, this is YouTube, and we have 4K 2160p with HDR. And then one more setting that you might want to make sure is turned on. We have the pixel shift, which will automatically kind of refresh your image so that way you don't get any kind of stuck pixels or any kind of imprint that may be burned into the TV. So you're probably going to want to keep that on. And then if you are noticing any kind of burn-in retention, then you're going to want to click on the panel refresh, which will reduce image retention of your TV screen. So what I'm doing right now is that I'm exporting this same video to YouTube in SDR and in HDR. We'll then go back and check on the Bravia 8 to see what the differences are between the two and see how good this TV handles HDR material. All right, so what we got here is this side here on the left is going to be the SDR version. This side here on the right is going to be the HDR version. And this probably isn't going to translate too well over YouTube because YouTube is going to be compressing the same image twice. But anytime you shoot something with a solid background like this, and if there's any kind of light shining on it, you will see a ton of posterization within this same color, which you can see in the SDR version. On this HDR version, you can see a little bit of the posterization or gradation, but in real life, this is pretty much non-existent. Again, it's just YouTube compressing it twice, so that's why you're seeing a little bit here on the HDR version. And I think if you are discussing something on YouTube where image quality is concerned, I think having that extra dynamic range that HDR can give you will minimize the compression that YouTube puts on the image. So I mean, that's why I've been slowly moving over to shooting everything in HDR for my YouTube videos. And then also here, as far as just like bright white highlight detail, we can see here that this is the HDR version, obviously. You can see all of the detail, the lettering and all that in the manuals, whereas on the SDR version, everything is not captured here correctly. Everything just looks really kind of blown out. Now, of course, if I was shooting with SDR in mind, I could retain some of that highlight detail that was shown in the HDR clip, but I was shooting strictly for HDR, so that's why it looked the way that it looked. But, you know, overall, I wanted to do most of my videos in HDR just because of that extra dynamic range and because YouTube does such horrible compression on whatever you upload to their service. I don't have to explain to you guys the black levels are excellent for an OLED television set. If you want the deepest blacks where pixels just shut off for perfect black levels, then you're gonna have to go with an OLED. Since I am a fan of mini LEDs, the black's not quite as dark as an OLED, but still pretty close. However, I can see why people are fans of OLED tech because of those perfect black levels. And this is no exception. This TV is supposed to be as close to Sony's mastering monitor. I think it's the BVM 3110. I think this is supposed to be as close to that as possible. And I can't say whether that's true or not, but this was rated the best TV of 2025. But as far as having this as my reference monitor for my HDR or YouTube workflow, I think is a great addition. And even though I'm not using this for home theater purposes to watch movies and TV shows with, again, the black levels are perfect. I did watch a few things on Netflix, like that Demon Hunter on Netflix. The colors are extremely bright, extremely vibrant. It doesn't go as bright as my mini LED set, but I don't know how many OLEDs can, so it doesn't quite have that kind of light output, but still, For an OLED, this is the brightest OLED I've personally owned myself. Even without using the smooth gradation, I didn't notice anything detrimental as far as, the posterization gradation and just regular 4K material on Netflix or Apple TV or anything like that. So, I mean, I guess it's nice to have that feature if you are watching stuff on YouTube. But I think in the past, I did notice some of that posterization, but in this one, I didn't feel the need to actually use that feature whatsoever. They actually got rid of that feature on their new projectors for this generation. So it's gotten better in their projectors, and apparently it's gotten better on their OLEDs as well. Now, before we wrap up this video, I do want to mention that the TV speakers, the built-in speakers, sound great on this television set. I've seen a few videos on this where they're saying that the sound quality is kind of thin, it's light, doesn't sound all that great. I don't know what TV they're watching, but this is by far the best sounding TV that I've personally heard. Maybe the Sony A9G when I had that one, or the A91, or the Sony A1 rather, the first OLED. I think that one actually had 3 speakers behind the set, so there was a left, center, and right. This one I believe only has 2 speakers, left and right, so in order to get that center channel image, it does have to create that phantom image. So, I mean, I do wish that there was a dedicated center channel with this TV, like the OG A1 had. Even without having a dedicated center channel, again, best sounding TV speakers I've heard. It's also got those 2 dedicated subwoofers, those 2 mini subwoofers in the back of the TV that I showed in the start of this video. So obviously it doesn't sound like it's got giant subwoofers in it, but there is enough bass where it gives voices a bit of gravitas and a bit of weight to it. And if you want to turn on the faux surround effect, and if you want to use the Dolby Surround DTS-X up mixer, that will give you a bigger spread of sound sideways or horizontally. So you will get a much more wider, detailed soundstage up front. It's not going to give you Atmos effects where things are flying over your head or anything like that, but just the wide soundstage up front where there's some really good separation from left to right. And of course, having the speakers locked in behind the screen will give you a nice phantom center channel image so that everything does come directly from the screen. So overall, you mix in the king of TV picture quality, fantastic colors, perfect black levels. If you're a YouTube content creator, this is a great monitor to use for that if you can't afford a Sony BVM 3110. And the speakers, if you don't have a giant room, if you're in a small space like this, the speakers on this TV sound fantastic. The best that I've heard personally. This is a highly recommend if you're using it in a small room, or if you're a YouTube content creator. I can't recommend this TV enough. Now, at the time of this video, the Sony Bravia 8 Mark II is selling for $25.99. If you want to grab one of these sets, I will leave some links for it down below in this video's description. So what are your thoughts on this TV? Have you seen it, and have you compared it to something else in its price range? And how does it perform against those other ones? Leave your comment down below and let me know, because I haven't seen every single TV this year. Well, anyways, thanks for watching. Be sure to like this video if you found it useful, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you again in the next video.